Hi students, today I'll be reading you the second half of the storybook Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. Enjoy! Chapter 14. It was nice and warm inside the factory. I have to keep it warm for the workers, Mr. Wonka said. Who are the workers? Asked Augustus. You'll find out soon, said Mr. Wonka. It was a fantastic place. There were green fields, tall trees, beautiful flowers, and a river made of chocolate. Look, near the waterfall, said Veruca. Are they people? Yes, they are, said Mr. Wonka. They are the Oompa Loompas. They're famous for working, dancing, and singing. The Oompa Loompas sang and danced, and all the children and their parents and Grandpa Joe watched. Daddy, shouted Veruca, I want an Oompa Loompa. I want to take it home with me. Not now, my dearest, her father said. Augustus, shouted Mrs. Gloop, don't do that. Augustus was on his stomach by the chocolate river. He wanted to taste it. Be careful, you'll fall in, shouted Mr. Gloop. Too late. Augustus was in the river. Splash! Augustus! Where's Augustus? Cried Mrs. Gloop. He can't swim. He's going to be fine, answered Mr. Wonka. Please take Mr. and Mrs. Gloop to the fudge room, Mr. Wonka said to one of the Oompa Loompas. Their son Augustus is there. Into the boat, shouted Mr. Wonka. Off we go, down the chocolate river. Everything in this fantastic world was made of sugar. The big boat was sugar. Mr. Wonka put a cup into the chocolate river and gave it to Charlie. Drink this, he said. You look hungry. It was delicious. Stop the boat, Mr. Wonka shouted. This is the most important room in the factory, said Mr. Wonka. Come inside. Charlie looked round the enormous room. There were pots everywhere. This is the room where we make new sweets. All of you, please do be careful. Don't knock anything over, said Mr. Wonka. Mr. Wonka took them into the middle of the room. There was a great big metal machine. It moved up and down, making a very loud noise. Suddenly, something small and gray came out. It looked like paper. Is that all? Asked Mike. Yes, that's all, answered Mr. Wonka. Do you know what it is? It's chewing gum, Riley shouted. That's right, said Mr. Wonka. The most fantastic gum in the world. This piece of gum is a meal, said Mr. Wonka. It tastes of soup, meat, and blueberry pie. What do you mean, soup, meat, and blueberry pie? Asked Violet. Well, if you start chewing it, you taste soup, then... I want it, said Violet. She put the gum in her mouth and started chewing. Delicious. Help, cried her mother. She's turning purple and round, said Mr. Wonka. She's a blueberry. Oompa Loompas, take her away. The next stop was a nut room. Have a look through the window, but don't go in, said Mr. Wonka. The squirrels are opening the nuts. I want a squirrel, shouted Veruca, looking in the window. Don't be silly, said Mrs. Salt. These are Mr. Wonka squirrels. But I want one, Veruca shouted, and I'm going to get one now. She ran into the room, but the squirrels caught her and pushed her down a hole. There were only 2 children left now, Mike and Charlie. Shall we go? Said Mr. Wonka. Yes, cried Charlie and Grandpa Joe. I'm tired, said Mike. I want to watch television. Let's take the lift if you're tired, said Mr. Wonka. This lift can go up and down and round corners, and the walls are glass, so you can see out. You can visit any room in the factory. The visitors stepped out of the lift into a white room. Mr. Wonka gave them all dark glasses. That's better, said Grandpa Joe. It was too white. This is where we test our television chocolate, said Mr. Wonka. What do you mean? Asked Mike. Well, I can send a bar of chocolate from one end of the room to the other by television, said Mr. Wonka. That's not possible, said Mike. No? Watch this, said Mr. Wonka. 6 Oompa Loompas put a big bar of chocolate under a camera. They pulled the switch. The chocolate was not there. It's in the television, laughed Charlie. It's smaller. I want to be on TV, shouted Mike. He ran across the room to the camera and pulled the switch. Where's Mike? Shouted Mrs. TV. He's in the television, answered Mr. Wonka. He is so small, cried Mrs. TV. The Oompa Loompas will make him big again, said Mr. Wonka. How many children are there left now? Asked Mr. Wonka. There's only Charlie left now, Mr. Wonka, said Grandpa Joe. Mr. Wonka turned to look at Charlie and said, Are you the only one left? Well, yes, said Charlie quietly. But my dear boy, cried Mr. Wonka, then you're the winner. Well done. Now we must be quick. Jump into the lift, my boy. And you too, Grandpa Joe. The lift flew up into the sky. We must go down and look at our friends before we go, said Mr. Wonka. He pushed a different button and the lift flew down. Now, Charlie could see the 4 children and their parents. Are the children going to be all right? Asked Charlie. Yes, they'll be fine, answered Mr. Wonka. I'm going to give them some sweets to take home. But I have something important to talk to you about, Charlie. I love my chocolate factory, said Mr. Wonka. Do you love it too, Charlie? Oh, yes, cried Charlie. It's the most wonderful place in the whole world. Good, said Mr. Wonka, because it's yours. Charlie could not believe it. The chocolate factory was his? The lift went down, down, crash into Charlie's house. Help! Cried Grandma Josephine. It's only us, said Grandpa Joe. We're going to live in Charlie's chocolate factory. We'll never be hungry again.